welcome to our May 31st Planning and Community Development meeting. Can I first get a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting? Supervisor Wild, seconded by Supervisor Stroud. All those in favor? Aye. Wayne?
All right, just one thing as far as committee action. It's that time of year again where we, as staff, lose our summer due to grant applications, but the CFA is out there with a July 26th middle date, so there's a resolution request to submit multiple applications under the CFA, and you have a listing of that on the third page of the handout here, and basically they're continuation of existing programs, just follow on projects. The number 3 on here, I believe, was discussed yesterday, environmental facilities, but it would go through this committee as because they're the ones writing it, so. But that's the department request, is to go ahead and submit under the CFA. Matching funds would, where they're required, would be provided by individual project sponsors. So, in the communities that were in Chester and in town of Johnsburg, those projects are, any matches is provided either through in-kind donation or through cash. So, the only expense of the county would be some of the staff time to administer these, although we do put in for administrative funds in all of these.
Can I get a motion just to get it on the floor? Supervisor McGowan, seconded by Supervisor Wild. Any discussion? Can I have a motion to approve? We have that. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No one.
For the next item of fun, Sarah has some updates to the GIS program that we'd like to run through real quick, and that's, as far as committee actions, we're done, so I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Okay, so just a reminder about the capital projects inventory. You've probably all received a few reminder emails from the county administrator. Thank you for everybody who's submitted projects so far. Still outstanding, we have county DPW projects, EDC, soil and water, town of Chester, town of Hague, town of Horkin, town of Queensbury, town of Stony Creek, and town of Thurman. Thank you to Bolton, Chester, Lake George Town and Village, Johnsburg, SUNY Adirondack, and Cool Insuring Arena who have entered their projects. So if you have any problems, questions, get in touch with Chris or I. We would prefer to have them in today, if possible.
City of Glens Falls has not submitted.
City of Glens Falls has submitted.
They have, but they have an amendment.
Okay. So, along those lines, I just wanted to briefly mention, I made an update to the GIS page on the county's website, and I put all of our web mapping applications easily accessible in this one location, and as I enter the capital projects into the new application, they'll also be here as well. So this is where you would access that capital projects inventory, which, it'll take me a week or two to get everything ready to be released, but it will be here, which is the GIS page on the Warren County website, warrencountiny.my.gov GIS. I wanted to also mention, this is Adirondack Glens Falls Transportation Council's TIP viewer, so this is their transportation improvement projects, and I just created a website for them that is using a similar format to what we'll use for the capital projects inventory. So this is all their 5 years of projects, which are filterable by location, project category, project type, selectable, and then it's hard to see because the screen is smushing things a little bit, but it will list the obligated funds, the broken down into what the project year total commitment, funding source, all that kind of stuff. So this is kind of our end. It won't obviously be exactly like this because the capital projects covers more than transportation, but it will be some sort of space like this, which will be accessible via the GIS website. And that's it. Any questions?
Supervisor Hogan.
I just want to say thank you for being you. These maps are awesome. They are so great. Every day I find myself referencing something up there in them. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anything else, Wayne?
That concludes our portion
Great,
of the
great.
time slot.
Short and sweet. Net. We love it.
I gave you a carte blanche.
Thank you, Wayne. I noticed you went first again.
That's right.
That's all right. I just wanted to, while Wayne is still here, giving you a very brief update on the affordable housing study. EDC at our meeting in June will be authorizing $20,000 to be transferred to the appropriate county account. In addition to the LDC meeting in June, is to transfer that from the housing account within LDC to the county, so it basically becomes a capital project under the county relative to this. And then we feel that it's appropriate to have the county planning be the lead agent, if you will, on this. With Wayne's background and certainly with Patricia Tadish's housing background, I think it's appropriate. We have indicated to Wayne that we certainly would be able to serve and work with the county and this county group on that, but I think it's a better, more direct way to go, particularly as it involves many of the northern rim towns here in Warren County to go forward with that study, and principally to really get involved in the marketing study. As when we had a meeting several weeks ago with Darren Scott from HCR, he indicated that there is a need for the local communities to undertake a very preliminary marketing study to determine a needs assessment as well as the viability from a financial point of having these projects in the rural areas of Warren County go forward. Queensbury just updated their housing study with detailed information. I think that we can glean some information from that, as well as the Adirondack Gateway Council a couple of years ago did some information as well. So I think that we've got some basic background, but it will take a feasibility marketing study to assist the developer. Once we submit that to the state then will kind of put that on the hit list for interested housing developers to look at, and then have an opportunity to have some conversations with those developers that are interested from the county perspective. Wayne, did you want to add anything?
The only thing is that we will bring a resolution request next month to establish the capital fund for that and start that process. So.
Great. Thank you.
Any questions on that? Okay. All right, good. All right, so good morning. One of the things that we have been involved with, as you may recall, the county applied for and did receive a New York State grant for marketing the airport. I have met Don McGraw has been working on this along with a consultant, and I've had the opportunity to meet with Don a couple of times to provide some additional information from our perspective to see how we can market the airport and surrounding area from two perspectives. One is from potential land that is adjacent and available for aviation purposes, is to continue to keep that within the constraints of airport needs. Also to look at the ability to designate potential land that is currently owned by the county as non-aviation, which means it becomes more flexible for development. In order for that to occur, there has to be steps that would have to be undertaken by the county and Don to proceed with that in order for FAA to sign off on that. Even if it becomes non-aviation, the funds from the sale as well as any taxes really has to be put forth into the airport account as well in order for that to occur. And in conjunction with that, the EDC has received a grant to assist in doing two things. One is to look at the compatibility of the two brownfield opportunity zones that are located in the eastern part of the city, Warren Street, and South Queensbury. Queensbury is ahead of Glens Falls' BOA, and that includes the Ciba-Geigy site, but also to include additional lands surrounding this area. So there's a total of approximately close to 800 acres in this area that we would work with the town of Queensbury, work with the city of Glens Falls, and now with Don from the airport, so that together, instead of having separate studies and going in separate directions, that we try to have a cohesive plan of how we can consider marketing those particular areas of Queensbury and Glens Falls, and also come up with to see if there perhaps is any need for changes in zone or modification to make the land more developable or to make it more restrictive in particular areas to go forth. And so that we finally able to get the contract underway with Empire State Development on this. And again, we would look at doing this in conjunction with Stu Baker, John Stroud from Queensbury's BOA, and in Glens Falls, working with the LA group and with the BOA committee that's involved on Warren Street as well. And Stu has been involved through reading our reports to date from BOA. He was unable to make the last meeting earlier this week at Abraham Women's School. But I think this is a way of some intermunicipal cooperation and some overall comprehensive approach to a particular parcels of property in that area of town. There's great similarities between the east side of Warren Street and the South Queensbury area, in the sense that it's mixed use. You have a variety of different uses in that area, as well as around the airport to do something. And Don has been on top of this and is eager to promote more revenue for the airport in these areas as well.
Go ahead. Supervisor McCowan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I noticed the line going down there, too, and I know there's the parcel over here to the right there, that's Washington County. Are we doing anything or working with them? Because at one time I thought, going through with the expansion, because they have a lot of land over there, too. But,
I think I would have to defer to the Warren Washington County IDA.
Okay.
There has been some discussion in the past concerning that. On the Warren County side, property owned by the IDA, I understand that the bulk of that property is been sold and is filled. The Washington County side still has some vacant property, and I know there's been some discussions by Warren Washington County IDA to look for other lands, potentially for Warren County IDA to expand in Warren County and then Washington County. But I would defer to the Warren Washington IDA, and we certainly can reach out to them and a willingness to work, and then certainly look at incorporating that segment of property as well, Brett. That's a good point.
Yeah, no, I was just, wondering, all for the strength of the airport.
I agree.
And being
Yep.
so darn close that, because at one particular time I was hoping to bring in Washington County, if the expansion was going to go through, to help, but since they don't have any money, is if they produce, businesses over there, there should be like a, maybe a buy-in fee for the airport, the use of the airport, for any industrial use over there, something like that. But I was hoping to, I'm 100% Warren County, believe me, so we come first, but,
Right. No, I actually think certainly that's a good idea to advance to the Warren Washington IDA and see what their position is on that particular land to do that.
All right, thank you.
Okay. And even if that doesn't work, then we can, the next step would be is to reach out to the neighboring town of Kingsbury to see, and Dana Hogan over there to see what their interest. I know that unrelated project, but with the regional sewer study that is underway, that has been a major issue is Kingsbury Sewer District 2, Port Edward Sewer District 2, where there have been some issues in getting that put together in an appropriate time frame. that is being studied and how that would tie into Queensbury, then that flow would most likely come into the Glens Falls wastewater treatment plant instead of Fort Edward because of the capacity issue in that northern part of Kingsbury. So that's part of our area.
And Ed, if you don't mind, and Brad, I'll respond, Mr. Chairman, the chairman for the IDA isn't here, but I am on that board. And I can say that with confidence that I believe that if there were any opportunities to work with Ed and other clients coming in, that the IDA would definitely be involved and interested in helping make that happen.
Okay, so
Thank you.
good. We have actually two members of the IDA here. Mr. Chair, could Travis respond to that?
Sure. I didn't see your hand up there.
Actually, I put my hand up, but thank you for,
I didn't see your hand.
I agree, of course, with everything that's been said, and in particular, I would like to see these lands benefit the airport and revenues generated to lower the cost of the county residents for the airport. What I would say, however, is that there are lands over there already under control, the Stone Quarry area. Hopeful that can be developed at some point in time. We're hopeful that this will be developed at some point in time. We actively work on developing the properties that we own. We've been really slightly more successful than the EDC. What my suggestion would be is to keep this open and have the EDC and the IDA basically compete or work together to bring you the opportunities to sell that land for the benefit of the airport before either giving it to the IDA or to the EDC. I would keep it in the county control if I were you. But I think as Mr. Bartholomew has said, there's some things that have to happen first. That land, if you recall, was all taken to do with the runway 30 needs. Mr. Chartrand, it was like $1 million purchase of land, 70 acres of land, and we only needed like 2 or 3. So what I think Mr. Bartholomew is getting around to is that the county needs to go ahead and declare this extra 60 acres as surplus and get the FAA to agree to that. And then at that point in time, we could then consider, developing it with industrial or other uses, whether it's directly. So I would encourage the county to pursue that avenue in getting it declared surplus.
Is there a downside to Warren County declaring that land as surplus? I'm just asking because I don't know.
Yeah, and I probably don't have a better answer than that. I don't think there's a downside, but perhaps somebody else does.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, there really has, from my perspective in terms of marketing, I have not been involved, and Don hasn't really shared. I don't think there's been any major discussion to the Facilities Committee on exactly what precise land would be allocated. Don has some ideas. Certainly, one area that is owned by Angio and a little property down where they are through some discussion I'm going to mention in a moment, be looking to expand their operation manufacturing component at the Queensbury site as potentially a sale is occurring today that I'll mention in a couple of moments here. So that's something that we are working on collaboratively with Don, with the county, be working through Mr. Beatty's chair, as well as Glenn, the Warren Washington IDA and the town of Queensbury, certainly, through the BOAs. I think it's a good opportunity for everybody to be on the same page as going forward with this, which strengthens our ability to market that and know, as well as bringing in at an early stage here the various planning components, including the Queensbury Planning Board. So that, again, we're working together, and so we can have smoother transactions on property.
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thanks. Just one more thing. Ed, if I could just ask that the IDA is updated as this moves forward so we can participate. I'm not sure if anything like that has happened yet.
I think this study has really been kicked off in the last 45 days. So I think that they're putting together some thought process right now, the consultant with Don, and I'm sure that he'd be talking to Warren Washington IDA, because it was discussed at our informal meeting a couple of weeks ago in looking at property, when I pointed out Warren County IDA, Washington County IDA, were potentially looking to expand some land in that area, or work some other items out here. Again, I just want to mention, this is, for many years we've talked about this is important, that we really need to get more people on the job roles and seek the unemployment downward. We're at a point now that it is occurring on a daily basis. You read the paper, you hear on the radio, TV. The factor is that you can list any business in Warren County, and they're looking for people. Whether it's from the bank, whether it's stewards, whether it is welders, so forth. There's just not enough, and the companies are reaching out and going outside the area in order to bring people in, and by the area to other states, because the entire state of New York, principally, is having a difficult time in getting these jobs employed. And it makes it, quite honestly, difficult when we're talking for potential expansion of some industries in this area, whereas 5 years ago you could say with some great amount of assurances that, oh yes, if we expand here in Glens Falls, we're going to have, X number of unskilled, skilled laborers, administrative staff. Will you be able to fill that between Warren and Washington County in northern Saratoga? And you could say with confidence, yes. Right now, it would be very difficult to essentially say that because of our low unemployment rate. And this is not a pitch to have a higher unemployment rate. It's just something that we really need to address and bring together. We have such a multitude in different facets of job training, workforce training in our area, that it's very confusing for the employer to find out where they can go to seek help. Now, the governor has attempted to start this at the top by having a new deputy commissioner, if you will, of workforce development in the state, so that there is direct focus now on this issue, so that right now SUNY at Adirondack has workforce development. EDC with John Wheatley serves on the tri-area workforce development. The Department of Labor has JobLink, and so there's a variety of tools out there, but we're not all speaking the same language. BOCE is involved. The Queensbury School District is probably one of the leaders in high school, secondary education in working. But by the time we sit down with SUNY or BOCES to develop a new curriculum, that need may have passed. So we really need to develop a rapid response, just as we do when unemployment comes to a company and they announce layoffs of 50 or more. They're required to notify Department of Labor, such as when C.R. Bard a few years ago had that. They come in instantly and do that. What we need to do is have that same kind of rapid response that's directed through the state, working with Chris Hunsinger here at the local level, to get into these areas and find out what we can do to be more helpful. Right now, we just keep referring to different agencies, but there's not any sit-down and coordination, and we really need to do that from an educational point of view, from a Department of Labor, and from our county, and most importantly from the employers, to determine right now what kind of jobs they need and what are you offering in salaries. So that's something that we really, we've talked about it, we've had some discussions on it. At our last EDC meeting, we had the new executive director of the Warren Washington Saratoga Workforce Development come and speak to us, but that's only one element. Dr. Duffy, who's a member of our board, has pledged to work with them, so we want to bring that together, and also Chris Hunkinser from the county here is also going to be working together. But it's just not Warren County. This is a statewide issue, and we have to address it. We don't have the resources, but I think, again, through some sharing of data and information, we can do that and find out exactly what the workers are, where they are needed in this area. Some company has gone to Pennsylvania for welders. That's expensive.
Interesting, Supervisor Wild.
I'm sorry, again, Ed, another question, but are you asking for us to help with something?
I'm pointing this out, we're waiting to try to get a massive meeting together of all the parties, including the county, and state representatives from these various entities to get together at one table and collectively determine how we're going to approach this issue. Right now, it's on a shotgun approach. We're trying to go out there. We cannot do this Warren County by itself. Washington County can't. You have the Center for Economic Growth that is reaching out to the veterans. They've developed an entire list of veterans that are looking for jobs. The difficulty with that is in our local area here, the majority of veterans are readily employed. You talk to many employers in the area, and a military person that has retired from the military or done his duty, they're one of the first groups that are selected by Finch Paper, as an example, and others in the area. When I talked to Denise here, when I talked to Washington County, there are not. We conduct through EDC, on behalf of the city, a job training. And I've reached out to them numerous times, and they said, we basically do not have unemployed veterans at this point unless they are disabled to a certain extent and are going through different courses here. So we want to hire a vet, but we don't have that many vets available for jobs right now because they're already employed. So, Michael, to answer your long-winded answer here, yes, we are not looking for anything today other than to update you, and we are looking for some time in this early summer to be able to put all this together on a regional basis.
Let me know if you need some help, Ed.
Okay, we do. We do, Michael. So we will be calling on you. Okay, and that's just to indicate a year from measurements, Mr. Wild, from 1 year ago today, you saw the increase in jobs that basically come in the healthcare, some a little bit in the financial, and in the hospitality lodging area for that. This is very interested, and this is something that is on the cusp. We've talked about self-driving a little bit. It's coming. U.S. Post Office. Now, normally you think of the federal agencies as bureaucratic red tape and not behind. They are in the process of a pilot with self-driving freight from Phoenix to Dallas, 1,000 miles away. What they are doing this is in a pilot for the next 2 to 3 weeks. They have a driver, an engineer in there. They have sensors. They're able, with their sensors and cameras, to project out 30 seconds in advance of where they're going, as well as about 10 football fields or 3/4 of a mile at this particular point. They're going to weigh that success. They figure that if this happens, it's going to occur in other states. They're doing it out in this area because basically it's flatland all the way from Phoenix to Dallas. I didn't realize that it was 1,000 miles, though. I mean, that's a long way. So it's basically 1,000 miles out to Dallas and 1,000 miles back. But they're also doing some work in self-driving cars at airports in Texas as well. Arizona, California, and Texas are at the forefront of the self-driving, and it's something that is going to be occurring more as we go forward in this area. And so we've been talking to the state about the technology involved and see where, perhaps we can become involved in these companies that are developing the sensors and cameras on these vehicles and so forth too, as a supply chain in this particular area. So that's be interesting to see the outcome. There has been some accidents, not with the post office, but there was a fatality in Arizona on a self-driving vehicle, and there was another gentleman who was not paying attention, playing his games on the computer, and he crashed into the side of a van and was killed. So, but it's going to come. Yes.
Wasn't that one of the problems there? I believe it was a white truck and a sunny day, and that was with the Telsa. But I mean, it is kind of amazing. We watch those cartoons, the Jetsons and that, and someday it's going to happen.
Yeah, it is. And so we want to try to see how we can become involved in a different kind of way, manufacturing or somehow, in these kind of things. Right now, some of these companies, the bulk of these companies are based out in the California area because that's where they're doing the testing, and that makes some logical sense in order for that to happen. Also, we attended the International Trade Economic Summit down at the University of Albany back in early May. John went to that along with the Center for Economic Growth and others to get a flavor of where we are with our international trade in the area. This is the interesting thing that you've read some in the Post-Star. As we know, 2 years ago, Benton Dickinson acquired C.R. Bard. Secondly, AngioDynamics is essentially selling the Phil Morris component of their business to Midline. That closing is expected to occur today, and you can see that Midline, which is based out in Chicago, is not a small company by any means in terms of their revenue base. It's a family-owned company. The CEO, there are two brothers that founded the company, and their respective sons are in the business. The CEO is a graduate of Cornell, and we have spoken with representatives Midline as well as Angio, and look forward to having conversations. What's going to happen currently right now, AngioDynamics has two facilities in the city of Glens Falls on the Dix Avenue Industrial Park. Right as you go out of the city, it's right there on the right to go in there. There is one facility in Queensbury of AngioDynamics. Currently, the facility in Queensbury is more manufacturing, accepting of supplies, and the outgoing of supplies. What they're proposing to do is to move their portion of their manufacturing operation to the town of Queensbury site that I earlier mentioned, and to do some type of expansion to accommodate the new employment. Currently, Angio here has about 800 employees. They're going to be down to about 400 and some odd employees. The remaining employees will become employees of Midline and stay in manufacturing for what I call the Phil Morris catheter portion of that business with Midline at the location in Glens Falls. And as I said, the anticipated date for closing is today. And I spoke to Angio. They were at our luncheon yesterday, and we'll just wait and see. I'm not going to forecast or give Don Lehman an edge here on this. He's not used to it. Okay. But we'll see. It's a major company, Midline. They have indicated an interest of wanting to grow in Glens Falls and expand. If you go online to their website, you will see that it is a vertical company. It's more than just a delivery of various other medical supply companies, whether it's McKeston or Baxter. They have started their own in acquiring and doing their own manufacturing now. It's a total vertical company, from delivery trucks that they own all the way up to these components. As an example, a number of hospital supplies are provided by Midline to the Glens Falls Hospital and to other hospitals in the area. But they are now entering into the manufacturing and taking the Phil Morris catheter portion of the business from AngioDynamics. AngioDynamics is proceeding on a more, their number one goal right now is this nano non-thermal knife that has now been permitted by FDA to have trial here for treat pancreas cancer. Currently, the problem is, from the experts, not me, is that treatment of pancreas cancer with heat does not work. It really causes more issues. So a non-thermal nano knife, they've had unofficial trials in Europe, and it's worked very well. And it's a very serious, as we all know, it's a very serious, disease to have. So that is what they're focusing in on, is undertaking some innovative technology with those type of issues. Benton Dickinson continues. It's a major company. The employment here has remained steady at C.R. Bard as well. So I feel that this transaction will be helpful, because instead of having two medical device firms, we now have three. So in the event within the industry, you have some ups and downs depending on the types of materials, devices that they're selling, that this provides, in my opinion, some stability by having a third partner here that are not necessarily competing with one another. That's providing a little bit more stability, in our area for the medical device industry, which certainly in the past several years has had some ups and downs in the area. So I'm confident that Medline is going to be a good neighbor in our area.
Mike, go ahead.
Just another quick one. Ed, is Angel going to have any remaining manufacturing?
Oh yes, they're going to be continue to be doing
More than the R&D?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That's all I
I
did.
can't say what the type of devices, including what I just mentioned, but those are the kind of things that they are looking to. Oh yes, absolutely. They want to concentrate on a core business into some new 2020 plus technology, Mike. What's happened in days past, it was just pure medical devices. Now what is happening, and all of the industries are doing this, it is health related in terms of medical. The stents that normally were put in several years ago were stents that basically did not operate after 5 to 6 years. Now the stents that are being put in by BD from C.R. Bard are medicated. They have actual medication on the stent that prolongs the use of that stent within the person's body. That's the kind of merger between the technology of medical and health that's going on in the industry now, and it's changing rapidly for that to occur. Also, we had the opening of the dinosaurs in our area this past week. I think it's another added attraction, and particularly whether you have children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, friends, at some stage in their life they know more about dinosaurs than you and I, period. What they eat, who they eat, so forth, up there for that as well. And again, we want to note and reaching out to the Roaring Brook to see if we can be of some assistance to the Roaring Brook purchasers of that transaction out there. And yesterday we heard from the executive director of the I Love New York program, who gave an outline, also some economics, and will be sending out some information to you that he provided from the statewide perspective. And I apologize, I know you had late meetings yesterday. Mr. Wild was there, and Supervisor Merlino was there to provide the introduction to Ross as well, and the Queensbury Supervisor, John, was there to introduce Rebecca Wood, who I think is going to be a great addition, moving up the ranks from marketing to president of Six Flags here at Glens Falls, and from Salem, New Hampshire, and a Division I basketball player at St. Bonaventure as well. So, but she's talented, and John, if you want to just say a quick word about Rebecca.
Well, I
said a quick...
Yeah, well...
No, it's just that Queensbury has had an extensive relationship
Make it
with
quick.
Six Flags.
I got to like very and respect Eric Gilbert. I think he did a great job, and I was sorry to see him leave. And then Eric called me up one day, and he said, listen, I already told you in confidence that, I was stepping down, and I would like you to meet the new president, so I want to bring him over to your office today. So I didn't know what to anticipate. Was it going to be some fellow from Texas with a Texas accent that didn't know our area or anything? But no, it turned out to be Rebecca. And I'm familiar with Rebecca because she was the director of marketing for the Greenscape, and so we had worked together for years. I said, perfect. Couldn't get any better than that. She's going to be wonderful in that position with the new president.
She's really stepping in and not missing a beat as to the activities. I know we got some planned new events potentially coming. So
putting the finishing touches on the speech that we're going to have for the new Hurricane Harbor this morning at 11 o'clock.
Oh, okay. All right. Very. Are you going to ride in that?
No.
All right. I just also want to mention at the very end, we EDC gave a Lifetime Achievement Award to Robert Flack for his distinguished service. If you ever have a chance to read his entire bio, from town supervisor for 9 years, from 1970 to 79. He was chairman of APA as well as ENCON commissioner. He saved the 1980 Winter Olympics by his transportation system. He started his career as a guidance counselor and teacher at Queensbury School, as well as going on and being a great advocate on ORDA for Warren County. And tourism and the quality of Lake George was very supportive, and his daughter Kathy is taken over as the CEO. So we had in the room Kathy Munsell as CEO of Fort William Henry, and we had Rebecca Wood as president in the same room, and I think that spells well for the recognition of the quality in promotion in our region area. They're both very bright, powerful individuals that will do well in their respective roles. And also, June 10th at the Crandall Library, we're having a updated meeting, EDC, along with Empire State Development on the CFA process, which is due at the end of July at 4 o'clock. And also, again, we're coordinating that. There again is highlights, and that is my report.
Good, thank you very much, Ed, appreciate that. Beth, did you have anything to enlighten us on? Well, thank you for your attendance, we appreciate it. Okay. Any other comments, discussion, anything from the public? Can I get a motion to adjourn? Supervisor Wild, second by Supervisor McGowan, all those in favor? Aye. Great.